If you're one of the millions of Americans who shops at Aldi, there are things happening inside those stores right now that the company isn't exactly advertising. And some of these could directly affect how much money you're actually saving on your next trip. Look, I'm not here to bash Aldi. I shop there myself. But after digging into employee forums, reading through customer complaints, and looking at what industry insiders are saying, I found some things that genuinely surprised me. Some of it will help you shop smarter. Some of it might make you rethink a few assumptions. Either way, you deserve to know what's really going on behind those bright blue and orange signs. So let's get into it. 1. The special buys aren't always special. You know that center aisle at Aldi, the one everyone calls the aisle of shame because you walk in for milk and walk out with a fire pit, a yoga mat, and an air fryer you didn't know you needed? Well, here's what Aldi doesn't broadcast about those deals. Those special buys and Aldi finds are intentionally limited. Once they're gone, they're typically gone for good. Aldi has built their entire model around this scarcity approach, and it works incredibly well at getting people to buy on impulse. But here's the thing most shoppers don't realize. Not everything in that aisle is actually a good deal. Consumer reports and price comparison sites have found that some of those center aisle items are priced the same or even higher than what you'd find at Amazon, Walmart, or Target during a sale. That air fryer for $49 might seem amazing until you realize the same model was $39 on Amazon Prime Day. The power tools are another example. Aldi sells them under their WorkZone brand, and while some are perfectly fine for occasional home use, repair technicians have pointed out that replacement parts are nearly impossible to find. So when something breaks, you're often just out of luck. I'm not saying everything in that aisle is overpriced or low quality. Some of it is genuinely excellent. Those Crofton cast iron pans people rave about? Actually really solid. But the lesson here is that just because it's in the special buy section doesn't automatically mean you're getting a steal. A quick phone search before you buy can save you from that regret later. 2. The checkout speed comes at a cost. Aldi cashiers are famously fast. I mean, blink and you miss it fast. If you've ever felt rushed at an Aldi checkout, you're not imagining it. And there's a reason for that speed that the company doesn't exactly highlight. According to current and former Aldi employees who've shared their experiences online, cashiers are tracked on their ring speed. They're expected to scan items at a rate of around 85% efficiency or higher at most stores. Some locations push even harder than that. What this means in practical terms is that if a cashier consistently scans too slowly, it can affect their performance reviews and even their job security. This is why Aldi cashiers don't bag your groceries. This is why they scan items directly into another cart instead of handing them to you. The entire checkout process is designed around speed metrics. Now, for most shoppers, this is fine. You get through the line faster. But here's where it can become a problem. That speed means cashiers don't always have time to check if an item's scanned at the correct price. They might not notice if that sticker said $2.99, but the register rang up $3.49. And when things are moving that fast, you probably won't notice either. If you've ever gotten home and looked at your receipt only to realize something was overcharged, this is often why. My suggestion? Take an extra minute at the bagging counter to actually review your receipt before you leave the store. Customer service will fix pricing errors, but only if you catch them. 3. The organic labels need a closer look. Aldi has done a remarkable job expanding their Simply Nature organic line. And for shoppers trying to eat healthier without paying Whole Foods prices, it seems like a no-brainer. But there's some fine print that Aldi isn't going out of their way to explain. First, not everything under the Simply Nature brand is organic. The packaging looks similar across the line, with those green and earthy tones that signal healthy eating. But some products are labeled organic, while others in the same Simply Nature line are just labeled natural. And in the food industry, natural is essentially a meaningless term with no real regulatory definition. So you could grab 2 Simply Nature products off the same shelf, assuming both are organic, when only one actually meets USDA organic certification standards. You have to look for that specific USDA organic seal, not just the Simply Nature branding. There's also the question of where some of this organic produce actually comes from. Aldi sources globally to keep prices low, which isn't unusual for grocery chains. But organic certification standards vary significantly from country to country. Organic produce from certain international suppliers may have been grown under different rules than what American consumers typically expect when they see that organic label. I'm not saying Aldi is doing anything wrong here. They're following the law. But if you're paying extra for organic because you have specific expectations about how that food was produced, it's worth understanding that the story might be more complicated than the label suggests. 4. Some products are literally the same as name brands. Okay, this one actually works in your favor, but Aldi definitely doesn't advertise it. Many of their store brand products are manufactured by the exact same companies that make the name brand versions you'd pay significantly more for elsewhere. Their Millville cereals? Several are made by General Mills. Some of their Clancy's chips come from the same facilities as name brand snacks. The Benton's cookies that taste suspiciously like Oreos? There's a reason for that suspicious similarity. Aldi has never officially confirmed most of these connections because the manufacturers typically require confidentiality agreements. But over the years, employees, factory workers, and food industry insiders have revealed enough that we have a pretty good idea of what's identical and what's just similar. The reason Aldi can sell these products for less isn't because they're lower quality. It's because Aldi's entire business model eliminates costs elsewhere. They don't pay for prime shelf placement. They don't run constant promotional sales. They keep stores intentionally smaller with fewer staff. All those savings get passed to the price tag. So when you're debating between the Aldi version and driving to another store for the name brand, in many cases you'd literally be buying the same product for more money. The trick is figuring out which ones are identical matches versus which are Aldi's own formulations. Taste testing helps, but so does a quick search online where people have documented these connections extensively. 5. The return policy has some catches. Aldi advertises something called the twice as nice guarantee. The promise sounds incredible. If you're not satisfied with a product, they'll replace it and give you a refund. Essentially, you get your money back plus a free replacement. But here's what they don't emphasize. This policy doesn't apply to everything. Non-food items, alcohol, and national brands sold at Aldi typically don't qualify. And in practice, how the policy gets applied can vary pretty significantly from store to store. Some customers have reported that certain locations have become stricter about requiring receipts, even though the official policy says you shouldn't need one for the guarantee. Others have said managers pushed back on returns of produce or meat, questioning whether the items were actually bad or if the customer just changed their mind. I've also seen complaints from shoppers who felt embarrassed trying to use the guarantee because cashiers seemed surprised or didn't know the policy existed. This is partly a training issue, but it means your experience might not match what the marketing promises. My advice is to keep your receipts, at least until you've tried everything you bought. And if a store gives you trouble about a legitimate quality issue, politely ask to speak with the manager and reference the twice as nice guarantee by name. Most of the time, this gets things resolved quickly. So, prices aren't always what they seem. Aldi has built their reputation on being the low price leader, and for a lot of items, they genuinely are. But there's a pricing strategy at play that most shoppers never notice. Aldi uses smaller package sizes on many products compared to other grocery stores. So while the shelf price looks lower, the per unit cost isn't always the bargain it appears to be. That bag of chips that's $1.99 might contain 9 ounces when the comparable bag at Walmart is 12 ounces for $2.49. Suddenly, the math isn't so straightforward. This is completely legal and honestly pretty common in retail. But Aldi's low price image means shoppers often don't think to check the unit pricing the way they might at other stores. We assume Aldi is cheapest, so we don't verify. The stores do display unit prices on shelf tags, but they're often in small print. That's easy to overlook when you're moving quickly. If saving money is your priority, and I'm guessing it is if you're watching this, take an extra second to check that per ounce or per count price. You might find that certain items are genuinely unbeatable at Aldi, while others would actually cost less somewhere else. 7. The stock issues are by design. If you've ever gone to Aldi looking for something specific and found the shelf completely empty, you're definitely not alone. And this isn't a mistake or a supply chain problem, it's actually intentional. Aldi operates on what's called a just-in-time inventory system. They keep very little backstock. What you see on the shelf is essentially what they have. When it sells out, you wait until the next truck delivery, which at some stores might be a day or two away. This approach keeps their costs down because they're not paying for warehouse space or letting products sit around past their dates. But it also means popular items can disappear mid-week with no way to get them until the next shipment arrives. Employees have mentioned that the days right after a truck delivery are when selection is best. For many stores, this is Tuesday or Wednesday, though it varies by location. If there's something you specifically need from Aldi, learning your local store's delivery schedule can save you a wasted trip. The other thing worth knowing is that Aldi's inventory system means some products are seasonal or rotating. That sauce you loved last month might not come back for 6 months, or ever. If you find something you really like, buying extra when it's available is sometimes the only way to ensure you don't miss out. 8. Employee experiences tell a story. I spent some time reading through forums where current and former Aldi employees talk about their jobs. And while many say they enjoy working there, some common themes emerged that affect your shopping experience more than you might realize. Aldi stores operate with minimal staff. This is part of how they keep prices low. But it also means employees are often stretched thin, juggling stocking, cashiering, cleaning, and customer questions with very few people on shift at any given time. What this means for shoppers is that finding someone to help you can be genuinely difficult. If you have a question about where something is or need assistance, the one employee visible might be dealing with multiple other tasks. This isn't them being unhelpful, it's the staffing model. It also explains why stores can sometimes look a little rough around the edges. Pallets in the aisles. Products just placed on shelves rather than neatly arranged. These aren't signs of a poorly managed location. It's simply what happens when 3 people are doing the work that other grocery stores might assign to 8 or 10. Understanding this has actually made me more patient as a shopper. And it's another reason why knowing what you need before you walk in, rather than expecting to browse or ask questions, makes for a smoother Aldi trip. 9. The Aldi apps and ads know more than you think. Aldi has been pushing their app and digital weekly ads pretty heavily. And while these can genuinely help you find deals, there's a data collection element that the company doesn't make particularly obvious. Like most retail apps these days, Aldi's collects information about your browsing habits, what deals you click on, and if you enable location services, potentially even how often you visit stores. This data helps them target ads and promotions to you, but it also gets used in aggregate to make decisions about inventory, pricing, and store layouts. None of this is unusual in modern retail, but if you're privacy conscious, it's worth knowing that engaging with Aldi digitally comes with the same trade-offs you'd find at any other major retailer. Reading through the privacy policy, which almost nobody does, reveals some fairly broad permissions around how your data might be used and shared. If the deals are worth it to you, that's a personal choice, but going in with your eyes open is always better than being surprised later. So here's what it all comes down to. Aldi can absolutely save you money. Their business model genuinely does deliver lower prices on many items, and there's a reason they've grown so rapidly in the American market. But like any retailer, they've made strategic decisions that prioritize their bottom line. Understanding those decisions helps you shop smarter. Check those special buy prices before you assume they're deals. Review your receipt for scanning errors. Read labels carefully on organic products. Learn your store's delivery schedule. And remember that just because Aldi is usually cheapest doesn't mean they're always cheapest on everything. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's the one product at Aldi you think is an absolute steal, and what's one thing you've stopped buying there because the quality wasn't there? Your experience might help someone else shop smarter. If you found this helpful, subscribing helps us keep bringing you these updates on what's really happening at the stores where you spend your money. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.